Welcome to the What to Play podcast. We are your hosts, Jacob and Lucas. Lucas, how is your day going?
It's good. How about you?
It's going well. Free agency just started. We get the first wave because free agency works in waves. And the first week of free agency or the first wave, it it was a shocker, to be honest with you.
hmm
But let's first ask, how do you think the Patriots offseason has gone?
I think the Patriots offseason so far has been all right. I feel like if you ask most Patriot fans, they would say it's been terrible because we haven't made a splash signing, and that is a big issue. But we did re-sign a lot of guys that I honestly didn't think that we would have had a chance to re-sign. Um, our, our tackle Michael Onwenu, Hunter Henry, Kendrick Bourne. Those were big signings that I honestly didn't see us signing any one of those guys, and it just helps. It really depends what we do in the draft. I would have preferred, and it's still possible that we know that T Higgins um, is is requested a trade anyway, and the chances of him getting traded are low, but that possibility is enticing as a Patriots fan. And we did try and go after Calvin Ridley. So to say that we didn't do anything is kind of a dumb way to look at it because we went hard after Calvin Ridley and it just didn't work out. I mean, we can't make the guy sign with us, but we tried, which is the best we can do. I think if we draft a quarterback, we are in a way better situation than we were last season. I still think we have plenty of room for improvement and plenty of we're still way far away from being a contending team. But I think we made some good strides this year. How do you feel about the Cowboys? Cowboys free agency.
The Cowboys free agency, it's frustrating. They don't know what they're doing half the time. Like, everyone that I've listened to, that I've somewhat deal with on a regular basis, have all said the Cowboys are either in the mix of a rebuild, they're going to either rebuild after this year and just say, okay, we're bringing a new coach, we're bringing a whole new thing, we'll keep the guys that we want to extend, like the Dak Prescott's, the CeeDee Lambs, the Michael Parsons. But other than that, everyone else, if you don't have a good year, you're out the door. And that's frustrating because it's either that or because this team is too good to lose more than 10 games. They're just not. They're not going to lose 10 games. So you're not going to have a high draft pick. And then they say, oh, we want to go and win games. We want to go make the NFC Championship game. And then yet they choose not to do anything. It's ridiculous. The Michael Gallup stuff we knew was probably going to be like he wasn't going to be back. Not at his price anyway. It was too expensive. And the way he was playing, they were not good enough. Tyron Smith, I was upset that they wouldn't go to where he was. He signs with the Jets for $6.5 million. The actual details say 20, but it's 6.5. You didn't pay him 6.5. The guy was an All-Pro last year at 33 years old. It's frustrating to watch them in the office. And then you have Stephen Jones go and say, "Oh well, we try." Always have my laptop and my phone. It's like, yes, but you don't call anybody. We'll get into Derrick Henry. They didn't even call Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry lives 18 minutes away from the facility. They didn't talk to him. It just doesn't make any sense. It's frustrating. The on the field product is good. It's the off the field, the front office stuff that's annoying with this team. Because they talk a lot, but they don't do anything.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are a team that drafts well. If you want to look at a positive, so I mean, you do have the draft to look forward to. You can maybe get some young talent, but I agree. I mean, the Cowboys should have made moves, in free agency. They were a really good team this past year, and there were obviously some pieces away, but they didn't even, like you said, didn't even make an extension to players to make their team contend.
Well, it's so frustrating. They brought in Eric Kendricks, but it's a 1-year deal. He only signed the deal really because Mike Zimmer's there. Because no one's really willing to sign. Everyone on the offensive coaching staff is on a 1-year deal, and everyone on the defensive coaching staff is a 1-year deal. There's no one here longer than 2024 at this stage. They had Dak restructured this morning, but it's not a new contract, it's just a restructure. Very little money moved. But it's watching, it's like everyone else moves. It's like if you watch a race, okay? And everyone starts in the beginning, and then here's Dallas like jogging along. Everyone else is going full speed. Dallas is kind of trotting. It's what they do every year. And I'm sure like Zimmer will figure out how to make these guys play good. But at the same time, it's just frustrating when we see all these great players that would help our team and they don't make a move. That's frustrating. They'll sign people and they'll draft well, but they need help now. Like, you don't have enough picks to make all these moves. You have to do something.
Yeah, I agree.
So, with the legal tampering period starting on Monday, there was a few releases. We won't really get into them. I was surprised what the Bills were doing, releasing basically the whole secondary was quite a shock to me.
Yeah.
I understood the Poyer move, but the Tre'Davious White move I thought was just an injury because they're like, yeah, too many injuries, we can't do it. That was how I took it.
Yeah, them and I believe the Chargers were probably the two busiest teams trying to make the cap. Obviously, the Chargers had some big moves, and the Bills as well, just cutting. There's so many players on the defense.
Right. And that's the cap is always due at some point. You just got to figure out when and how far you can move it. That's basically how it works. We did reference the Tyron Smith deal, 1 year, $20 million. And that was a hard move, I think, for Tyron Smith. He was very much part of the Jones family. He got drafted, he was 20 years old. He's been in the league. It feels like he's been in the league forever, and he's only 20 years old when he got drafted. So he's 33 now. But it feels like he's been there like for 50 years. It's insane. It's like the same thing with Trent Williams. You think Trent Williams was there for like ages. You realize he's 36. Like, what? So I know that was hard, but to not even make the effort was frustrating. Christian Wilkins, this was an interesting move, I thought. Christian Wilkins signs with the Raiders. 4 years, $110 million, $84.75 million guaranteed. A great job by Pierce to go and bring in defensive tackle help. They need a defensive tackle. And Wilkins is very impactful and will not just help himself that interior, but help out Max Crosby as well and get some of those double teams off him.
Yeah, I'm happy he's out of the AFC East. Playing him twice a year, I mean, he's a game wrecker, especially when he gets in his groove. He's a great fit for the Raiders, and I'm actually happy. I like the Raiders, and having some pressure. You got Max Crosby, you got Christian Wilkins up the middle. That's scary. But I mean, they need to make these moves when they play Mahomes twice a year. You play the Chargers twice a year with John Harbaugh. You know, the Broncos are the Broncos, but it's a good move, and I think he's a culture fit as well, which just makes it a great signing.
Well, I know we weren't going to talk about this. Who doesn't want like the Chargers to do like Hard Knocks? That would be so interesting to me. Let's just have him do it. Let's have Jim go and do Hard Knocks. Let's see what happens. As my earbuds just keep falling out for no reason. the Eagles have been somewhat busy. They feel the trade talks with Josh Sweat. Nothing came of it. As much as I know, Hassan Reddick's still on the move. But like you said, there's a few teams I'm surprised they've been as busy as they've been. The Eagles are one of those teams. I'm surprised. But moving into the Steelers, another team I'm very surprised about. Kenny Pickett traded after Russell Wilson signs with the Steelers. Vet minimum deal. 1 year, I think it was $1.2 million. And the thing that's going around, the rumor that's going around is they told Pickett and he said, why? I'm the guy. I'm here. Why are you bringing in Russell Wilson? No, I'm not going to play him. I'm not going to go against him. And I think that's just a terrible attitude to go in. And that was, I think, the reason he was traded was just he had a terrible attitude towards competition. And I understand what Russ brings, but I don't think it was handled the best way by Kenny Pickett.
No, yeah, it definitely was not. I do understand the frustration to a point, or I do think NFL teams in this stage are way too quick to move off of young quarterbacks. I think it's just with everyone, it's just everyone's just very impatient and no one wants to give a quarterback the time that he needs to become great. And I'm not saying that the Steelers should have went with Kenny Pickett because I did like the move. So I'm not necessarily talking for Kenny Pickett's situation, but in general, I think teams move off quarterbacks too quick. But I don't think this is this situation. I think when Pickett plays the way he plays, you gotta expect them to make a move. You can't just be so just not realizing the situation you're in. You didn't play great football. They're bringing in someone. If they told you you can compete, then you had a chance and you could have took it as I need to be better. But instead, took it a completely different way, and that's why he's not a Steeler.
And you have to understand the Steelers value loyalty. That's the biggest thing with the Steelers. Loyalty and competing is what the Steelers are all about. And you're right, the quarterbacks and I'll go further, quarterbacks and coaches are not given a lot of time. Like it used to be, used to give a coach 6 or 7 years, and now you're given 1 or 2 years, and if you're not good, you're gone. And that's frustrating, especially for a young quarterback. But that's not the same situation here. I think Kenny Pickett was trying to say, I'm here, I'm the lead guy. There shouldn't even be someone else that is even into this, as far as I am. The deal was struck with the Eagles for a third and 2/7 is what the Steelers receive, and the Eagles receive Pickett in a fourth. What a weird quarterback trades for the Steelers. It was very low interest moves, I would say. Late day 2s, early day 3 picks, or late day 3 picks. The same goes for Justin Fields. They traded him to the Steelers for a conditional 6th round pick. That is what it was. A conditional pick that could go up to 4 if I don't remember if it's the snaps. He has to play 51% of the snaps or 51% of the games. But either way, no one knew Fields' trade value. No one knew Kenny Pickett's trade value if there even was one. All we knew was they needed to make a move. This team needed to make a move. And it was interesting. You looked at this quarterback room last year was Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, who signed back with Buffalo, and Mason Rudolph. And now it's Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. And there's a report circling saying that the Steelers could extend Russell after this year. But I thought this was a great move of the Steelers. The Steelers do not move like this. They don't do this much in free agency. So it was a shocker. But you gotta give props to the Steelers. Just like you said, how Kenny Pickett, young quarterbacks that sometimes moved off too quickly. I feel the same way, like with Justin Fields, just move way too quickly all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Putting him here, giving him a chance to learn under Russ. Because if it doesn't work, well, you got Justin for a year. You can sign him to a small deal. And if it does work, terrific.
Yep. Yeah, Justin Fields is definitely what I was talking about. Moved off way too quickly for the Bears. I understand it with the position they're in and having the opportunity to get Caleb Williams. This is a case in point example of Justin Fields wasn't given enough time. I love his situation though in Pittsburgh. Being able to sit behind a quarterback, I think, is very important for a rookie. I know he's not a rookie, but he never even got that opportunity in the first place in Chicago. So to be able to go to Pittsburgh, sit behind Russell Wilson, who very successful quarterbacks, won 2 Super Bowls. Or was it 2 or 1 Super Bowl? Sorry.
One.
Okay, yeah. It
He's
was
been to
Super
two.
Bowl 49 I was thinking about. He's won a Super Bowl, almost won 2. He's a very talented quarterback. He is a perfect and he's definitely he can be a mentor for Justin Fields. The way I see it playing out is Wilson's the quarterback to contend for this year. You sit Fields, don't extend Russell Wilson. Have Russell Wilson show that, hey, like, I'm still a great quarterback to other teams, and other teams can give him a chance. But for Pittsburgh, you have him as your quarterback for a year. Then you have Fields play for a year. If he plays well, you sign him. And if that's what they're thinking, I think that's really smart by the Steelers front office. I mean, this is a really good move for them. So I really like it.
The reason I like this is, first off, you're giving him a coach that has confidence. Tomlin's one of those coaches that everyone says he's a player's coach. He wants his players to do well. I think that's what both these quarterbacks need. You look at Russell Wilson, what a terrible position he was put in. To go from Pittsburgh, you have Pete Carroll, to then go to Denver to have Nathaniel Hackett and Sean Payton, one after another, and then have now Mike Tomlin. I mean, and Arthur Smith. So there's an area of where we have to go with this, but I think it will allow Russell to have some time, and it will allow Justin Fields to learn. And like, what a dream scenario for Arthur Smith too. The Falcons were in talks of bringing in Justin Fields before they brought in Kirk Cousins, and he was the former coach of Atlanta, so he can relate a little bit to Justin Fields. Plus, it can't hurt giving him Bijan Robinson, Cordell Patterson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. That cannot hurt either.
Right. Yeah.
If he was in Atlanta. Now he's in Pittsburgh, gets George Pickens. Not too bad. What we were talking about, the Atlanta Falcons. Kirk Cousins went there, signed $100 million, 4-year contract. Now, we understand this, Lucas. You get a quarterback who's 35 years old, 36 years old. More likely, he's not going to play 4 years. That's just a number we threw out. It's kind of like in the courtroom. We say it's $100 million suit, but it's not. It's just a number we threw out there. It's the same thing. 4-year contract, over $100 million. And at Atlanta, with a new coach, give him a chance to win this division. We can't say anything bad about what Atlanta did.
Yeah. I mean, Arthur Blank was clear that he wanted a team that will make the playoffs and that has a shot. And signing Kirk Cousins will do exactly that. That division is still very depleted. They more than likely will make the playoffs, and they will be in there contending. So I mean, that's what Arthur Blank wanted, and that's exactly what he got with Kirk Cousins. So it's not a bad deal at all. It's a good deal for Kirk Cousins as well.
Well, it's like I keep looking at him like, okay, look at this roster. All they needed is a quarterback, and you get what is called like quarterback hell, where you just can't ever find somebody who's just capable. They had an old Matt Ryan, an old Julio Jones. They trade Calvin Ridley, or after he gets suspended, I should say. You're stuck with these moves, and then you say, okay, we're gonna roll with this quarterback, this quarterback, this quarterback, Desmond Ridder, Taylor Heineke, anyone that can Marcus Mariota, anyone that can play, and that's just Arthur Blank. Like a lot of these owners are in the same situation. They're older guys, and they say, "How much longer am I going to be here? I want to win a championship so badly. Who am I going to bring in? Who's going to give me a chance? Who's going to give me an opportunity?" And it was, okay, Kirk Cousins is available. Let's talk to him. Let's try to get him. And they did it. And I'm like, when I saw that move, I'm like, finally, they'll throw the ball to Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Just throw him the ball. Can we, like, the guy has more touchdown. It's not true, but it's almost true. He has more touchdowns not in North America than he has in America. It's the saddest thing, and it's not 100% true, but it's very close.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely see Kirk Cousins being able to use the Falcons' weapons more so, especially Raheem Morris will probably make it a point. Hey, the last coach got fired because he didn't want to use any of my skilled players. Let's make sure they're a big part of the offense. And I'm sure Kirk Cousins will be able to distribute the ball exactly how he wants him to.
All right, let's move on to the Ravens. They released Odell Beckham Jr. They signed Derrick Henry. The deal, 2 years, $16 million. They actually showed a number, I think, since 2020. Lamar Jackson has the most quarterback rushing yards. The running back with the most rushing yards and rushing attempts is Derrick Henry. So this should fit like a glove, but I do have questions of who's that second receiver on this team. But I do like the move.
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I think Derrick Henry is a good fit for Baltimore, and I mean they're a big rushing team with their quarterback, and now you got a bulldozer like Derrick Henry. I see it only working for Baltimore. Yeah, they still need players, and this isn't what's going to get them over the hump. The hump being Kansas City, but I think it's a move in the right direction. So I enjoy it.
Because in my mind, and I know this might be terrible for some people, I thought Lamar was his best last year. Because I thought he looked more comfortable in what he was asked to do. He wasn't just saying, okay, I gotta rely on my legs. Now there's times I'm like, okay, Lamar, just run. Just run, dude. It's not open, just go. But at the same time, like, I enjoy, like, he looked more confident. Because I think he had people he could throw the ball to. And he was not saying, oh, if I don't throw this perfectly, they'll drop it. So I think that's the issue. If they don't have another wide receiver, maybe they draft one. Maybe they try and bring in a Mike Williams. But they got to do something. But I do love this move because it's going to help Lamar out even more. Give him a chance to run the football with somebody else who is actually going to be stronger, bigger than him, and allow him to kind of facilitate more.
Yeah.
Well, before we get out of here, we have a couple more news items. the Chargers made a couple moves this week, releasing Mike Williams, which they were trying to get under the cap. It was either get rid of Joey Bosa, get rid of Khalil Mack, or cut Mike Williams. They still have interest in Mike, but they released him for now. He is actually meeting with Pittsburgh today. So I was a little shocked by that move. And then I was really shocked as they traded Keenan Allen to the Bears for a 4th-round pick. And part of me is saying, all right, I understand he's old, but I'm like, who's going to catch this football now? They don't have anybody.
Yeah. And they're in a situation where they could have, if they somehow got around the cap and kept Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. I understand. I'm pretty sure both of their contracts expired next year. So they would have had to
I
make
believe so, yes.
But they could have got Joe Alt and got someone to protect Herbert, because that's clearly is an issue and a gap that they need filled. Now it's clearly we got to get a receiver. We got to get Malik Neighbors somehow, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is available, Rome Odunze, someone, because you cannot have Quentin Johnson be your number one. Okay, Justin Herbert has had a bad enough time in Los Angeles, and you got to give him someone to throw to. So they got to draft receiver. I mean, I love the move for Chicago. I think getting Keenan Allen, getting ready, getting prepped for Caleb Williams, get him some weapons, get him some guys. That's great. So I love it for Chicago, but Los Angeles is really going to have to make some moves, and they're going to have to draft well.
Well, and my whole thing is Gerald Everett's gone. Mike Williams, you cut. Keenan Allen, you traded. Josh Palmer, I like him. I think he's a good player. Gets hurt a lot. Quentin Johnston can't catch anything, or couldn't catch anything his rookie year. I keep going back to when the Cowboys played the Chargers on that Monday night, and they throw the ball to Quentin, and Stephon Gilmore goes against him, and Stephon Gilmore's a small guy. He's not big, and he just bullies Quentin Johnson out of the way. It's like, Quentin, you're 6'4". Like, yes, I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm like, Quentin, you're 6'4". You should not be getting bullied like that. Mm-hmm. Especially against someone who's an older guy. You should be trying to at least box him out a little bit more. That was, to me, just, once I saw that, I was like, oh, boys, here we go. This is going to be a long road.
Yeah.
All right, Lucas, do you have any more names of free agents do you want to go through?
I do want to talk about the Calvin Ridley signing, actually, because,
okay.
Like I said earlier, I know the Patriots were going after him, but after he got signed, it was the Colts. Am I correct?
He was talking with the Patriots and Jacksonville. And to my understanding, he was very close in signing with the Patriots, but was giving Jacksonville an opportunity to counter. And then Tennessee, who was a dark horse, snuck in and made it work.
Yeah. Okay. I knew it was an AFC South team. Yeah, so I'm happy we didn't sign Calvin Ridley for that price tag. That is, in my opinion, it's a bad deal. That, I mean, is great for Calvin Ridley, but I think that's way too expensive. Where even if we signed him, if I saw that price tag, I'd have been like, I don't know. I don't think that's a good move. So I'm happy we actually get him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I think you did pretty well. You got KJ Osborne. I thought he was one of the better receivers out there from Minnesota.
Yeah, obviously, that receiver group still needs work, but KJ Osborne is an upgrade.
Well, it's like, think about it. Think of the group you had, because you guys barely used Kendrick Bourne last year because he got hurt.
Right.
And then you had Juju Smith-Schuster, who was in and out. Sometimes he'd have a good play, but there'd be like 15 bad plays that he would have.
Yeah, he wasn't
You
very
you
good for
couldn't get the
us.
ball to anybody. So bringing in like a KJ Osborne might help. I still think you guys need to draft somebody.
Yeah.
And let's see how that drafting process works with no more Bill Belichick making those choices. But I do want to see how they operate, at least from the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
Anyone else that you move on to before we get out of here?
No, I can't think of any on top of my head.
Okay. Well, before we go, I want to do this because we had two former Eagles retire. Jason Kelsey after 13 years, Fletcher Cox after 12 years. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is there's actually going to be 3 Eagles retiring in this year. Well, essentially this year. As Brandon Graham is on his last year. He has said that this is his last season. So he's on his swan song, I guess you would say. So congratulations to all 3 of those guys. But before we go completely, we must address the elephant in the room. Aaron Donald has announced his retirement, retiring after 10 years in the league. And I said this earlier on the NFL World show, which you can find on the NFL World YouTube channel, of Aaron Donald, 111 sacks and 24 forced fumbles. But I can't get out of my head what he did when I think it was Geno Smith's first start back in Seattle, and they faced the Rams, and Aaron Donald comes unblocked, and all you see is Geno go, "Oh fuck no!" Like, "Oh no, 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 I'm not doing this. No, get this out." When you have a player like that, oh yeah, Hall of Fame, press the jacket, let's go. Like, let's get the mold ready.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Like this guy, it was insane to watch Aaron Donald play. And I know a lot of people will say this, and they should say this. Aaron Donald might be the best interior defensive lineman ever. And people are going to say, well, if we redid the draft class of when he got drafted, he'd be the number 1 pick. Doesn't work that way. But you can't deny what the guy did. He did everything he needed to do. You win a Super Bowl, multiple defensive player of the years, probably the best defensive player in the game. And they did everything to stop you. And still you dominated. And Jeff Fisher, the former Rams head coach, said that he used to call Aaron Donald like a Reggie White kind of guy. That's how he operated. Tom McVay paid tribute to, I think, today and said he would take souls from people. Like, that's how good he was.
Mm-hmm.
And the league will be worse with no Aaron Donald in the league.
Yep. Yep, I agree. I mean, it's definitely, all I have to say is Hall of Famer. Like, absolutely 5 years. As soon as he's eligible, first year, put him in.
I think when we say this a lot, and I say this a lot, we all say Hall of Famer. We all say that. And that's true. He is a Hall of Famer, without a doubt. Like, start the mold, press the jacket, do the whole thing, get his measurements, do the whole thing. I've watched football a long time. All right? And I've seen a lot of great players. I've seen a lot of good players. I've seen a lot of players that don't get the credit they deserve. Aaron Donald might be the best defensive player I've ever seen. And it might not be that close. I've never seen somebody dominate an interior defensive line position like an Aaron Donald. From a guy who everyone said he was too small and too small. His arm length was not good. He wasn't strong enough coming out of Pittsburgh to then dominating the league for 10 years. Just an unbelievable career. And the league will miss Aaron Donald. But that's the show for the What to Play podcast. We thank you for watching the What to Play podcast, powered by StreamYard. And we can't wait to see you guys next time on the What to Play podcast. Peace.